It is Friday, and on top of the fact that tonight on SmackDown, we get a rematch of the main event of WrestleMania Night 1, only in this case, it'll be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending their WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships against the Usos. We'll see how that one goes, and just to throw out my prediction right here, right now, I believe the Usos are going to have to win those titles back. Simply because of the fact that Night of Champions is coming less than a month away, and we all know Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will not travel to Saudi Arabia for that show, so obviously if it's the Night of Champions, they can't be the champions heading into that pay-per-view event, so that's a little bit unfortunate on that note, but we'll just have to wait and see how that story plays out for the Bloodline as well, if the Usos win the tag team titles back tonight. But it is Friday, the very first night of SmackDown, and there are a select few amount of wrestlers available for the draft. Now, as I talked about on Monday, I gave a few picks of superstars that needed to be drafted over to Monday Night Raw from the Blue brand because I felt like their opportunities, their options over on SmackDown had come to an end or had really dried up. In this case, I will do the exact same thing for the SmackDown brand in terms of which Raw superstars need to head over to Friday nights on Fox. And I do understand that this won't be just a matter of trades. We're going to have members of the USA Network selecting for Raw and members of Fox selecting for SmackDown tonight on the show. I believe that's the way they're going to go through with this draft, at least on screen. But I just want to make it a point that I firmly believe these superstars need to be a part of SmackDown going forward. And obviously, the thumbnail has the Rated R superstar, the Hall of Famer Edge on it. And Edge recently stated on an interview with Logan Paul that he has maybe a year at most left in his WWE career. He doesn't want to stick too long to the business. He doesn't want people to feel sorry for him whenever he gets in the ring. He doesn't want to get it to that point. So, yeah, I sent him back to the Blue brand simply because that is the brand that made Edge a star. He became a breakout star on Monday Night Raw. He won Money in the Bank. He beat John Cena not once but twice for the WWE Championship. Well, actually, no, just once. Just once at the beginning of 2006. And then he lost the TLC match in front of his hometown crowd against Cena, formed Rated RKO, and then transferred over to the Blue brand. Again, I grew up watching Edge on SmackDown, and I feel like his options on Raw are very limited. I feel like he is a better fit on the Blue brand, and I've talked about this at length in the past, talking about how he should not continue his feud, his rivalry with the Judgment Day, and this creates an issue, or at least for my picks, because I also believe that the Judgment Day should move to SmackDown, because that's where Mommy is. That's where Rhea Ripley, the current SmackDown Women's Champion, is going to end up. She will stay on SmackDown. And she needs the entire Judgment Day there with her. So that would be my only gripe against Edge moving over to SmackDown. I don't want Edge versus Finn or Damian or Dominic or Rhea or whatever. I don't want any of that in the last year that we have of Edge here in WWE in active competition. But we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, currently on my picks, I have Edge and Judgment Day, the entirety of Judgment Day, heading over to SmackDown. And that way Judgment Day can continue their feud with the LWO for months and months to come. And hopefully, we get the Latino World Order some wins along the way, of course. Speaking of stars that I feel like have run out of options, but could be one of the top main eventers on SmackDown. He could be a challenger that Roman Reigns has yet to defeat in his current 3-year title reign. And I'm talking about the almighty Bobby Lashley. And again, we go back to their roots. Bobby Lashley made his debut on SmackDown all the way back in 2005. He looks in better shape than he did back then today. But back then he was green as hell. He had the look people wanted. He had the look people loved. But the wrestling, it wasn't quite there. They pushed him a lot. They pushed him to ECW champion. They pushed him to United States champion. He ended up leaving. And I feel like if he's moved over to SmackDown, he's either going after the Intercontinental Champion Gunther, and who wouldn't want to see Lashley versus Gunther? I know I do. Or you pair him up against Roman Reigns, who again, yeah, with the current landscape of the draft, I firmly believe Roman Reigns lands on Fox. He stays on SmackDown on the island of relevancy because for the only reason being that Monday Night Raw is a 3-hour show. Monday Night Raw needs a world champion badly. And if you move Roman Reigns to Monday Night Raw, he will barely show up at all, and it will be like nothing ever happened for Monday Night Raw. I believe the WWE World Heavyweight Championship should stay on Raw. Therefore, Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown, and we put the almighty Bobby Lashley on the blue brand and line him up against the Tribal Chief. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. That's the excitement about the draft tonight and the draft on Monday night as well. A superstar that I believe should go back to the house that he built. He's currently injured. He unfortunately missed WrestleMania. He's a former WWE champion. And again, another guy, another man that Roman Reigns has not defeated in his current title reign. I'm talking about the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. And again, the possibilities are endless. AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. AJ Styles versus Gunther for either championship. AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley. AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio versus Dominic versus Finn versus a lot of people versus Shinsuke Nakamura again if Shinsuke stays on the blue brand. Again, this draft could open up a lot of possibilities, which is what has me pumped for what happens, for what goes down tonight. And obviously with it being on SmackDown, I firmly believe SmackDown's going to get the first pick of the draft. They have to draft Roman Reigns, of course, the Universal Champion. He stays on the blue brand. I've said that, but I just want to make it clear. And then finally we get into the women's division. Again, a superstar who is currently injured or out of commission, battling some health issues, which are the very best in all of them. Hopefully she comes back better than ever. But I'm talking about Little Miss Bliss, Alexa Bliss. Again, this has been, and I didn't even mean for this to happen, but this has been a running thread on this analysis of the SmackDown picks. But I firmly believe that Alexa Bliss should go back to SmackDown, and we could have Alexa Bliss versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship down the line. Just throwing it out there. Asuka on the blue brand. Yeah, why not? They already pretty much blew up her feud with Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. I don't think they can go anywhere else with that feud, with that rivalry over on the red brand on Monday Night Raw. So bring her to SmackDown and actually have Rhea Ripley fear her for once. You know, that's a formidable opponent for Miss Rhea Ripley. Ripley versus Asuka. Just imagine it. Come on. And finally, I did call up some superstars from NXT over to Raw. I'm going to call up one superstar from NXT over to SmackDown. And I'm talking about the prodigy herself, Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez. I think that she would be an absolute fit. Perfect fit. Like a glove on SmackDown. And ultimately, if you don't have Alexa Bliss or Asuka or Raquel or Liv Morgan or anybody else on the blue brand dethrone Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship, you have the ultimate underdog of the women's division, the prodigy herself, Roxanne Perez, right there. And that way you could give Indy Hartwell over on NXT as much room to breathe as the in WWE. Again, in my opinion, With that said, those are my picks as far as Raw stars that currently need to be on the Blue brand, that need to be traded over to SmackDown in hopes of a new start, a fresh beginning, more options, exciting feuds, and just to make this very, very clear, WWE, Vince McMahon, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, whoever I'm talking to, Nick Khan, whoever is in charge of creative in WWE, doesn't matter who it is, make this a hard brand split. We don't need to see, after this draft, we don't need to see superstars from Raw on SmackDown or superstars from SmackDown on Raw until Royal Rumble season next year. Until WrestleMania season next year. That's the only exception. That and maybe the Survivor Series if you're going to have brand warfare again. I guess. But there should be only a few minor exceptions. But in the end, there should be a complete and total brand split. That way, it means more. That way, the drafts actually mean something. Instead of just trading off superstars in hopes of just creating some 1, 2, 3 week excitement, and then we'll just end up seeing Solo Sikoa on both brands again. Nothing against Solo Sikoa, just, like I said, if he's a Raw superstar, keep him on Raw. If he's a SmackDown superstar, keep him on SmackDown. And with that said, Roman Reigns is going to go first on the draft, but as far as I know, the Bloodline is not being eligible as an entire group. We have the Usos eligible for night 1, I believe. And Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, and Solo Sikoa eligible for night 2. Or it might be the other way around. I have to double check that. But they're not being drafted as a group as opposed to other stables that would be. So that's interesting. That's a cute little storyline thread to throw in there. But with that said, what do you think SmackDown needs over from Raw? What do you think? What are your picks? What do you think? Who ends up where for Raw and SmackDown after tonight and after Monday night on Raw? With that said, I'm Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk. Tune in later on to Fox for night 1 of the WWE Draft and the WrestleMania main event night 1 rematch. With that said, thank you, and I'll see you next time.